You know, during this happens to every GM. If you GM enough, you're going to run into one of those scenarios where either a member of the table gets up and leaves or drops out, or for personal reasons or life issues is unable to attend X amount of sessions, and the rest of your table, you're left then with this void to fill. Or the character in question gets killed, somehow gets taken away from the group, and the existing player is seeking to create another character to continue with the adventure. And we have to find a way to introduce or to include this new arrival, this new entry into the existing campaign and the existing group. Now, there's a lot of easy ways of doing that, and a lot of us have done probably every one of those at one time or another. Well, he just magically appears. We don't explain why, how. We don't care. It doesn't seem to be an issue with anybody. B, he was one of the NPCs that was tagging along that we kind of left in the background. You know, we all carry an extra character around just for, you know, this sort of emergency kind of thing. But there's some, I don't know how to put it, there's some way, sometimes it just seems either forced or cheesy to do that. And I've actually ended a number of campaigns over the years when one of the key players or characters are no longer available. At this point, it's not the same campaign or the same game. We're missing somebody from the table, or we're missing that particular character who was such a pivotal person in the group. And it doesn't seem right to just toss in some unknown, you know, entity. You know, we pull somebody off the back bench, so to speak. So I come up with 5 ways of potentially introducing a new character to the existing campaign. Number 1 is that a dimensional door or rift or other magical other magic opens, depositing said new character whom it turns out is chasing the same challenge. So perhaps because of the bad guys messing with more than one group of player characters, or more than one group of adventurers out there chasing the same MacGuffin or the same end result, and you find yourself suddenly confronted with a member of another group, or an individual who is his or her own agenda that, at least for a while, parallels what the group's planning on or what the group's intentions are. Number 2, one of the bad guys is captured and or surrenders, then attempts to convince the PCs to let him or her go along on the adventure. This is a common theme. We have encounters, and as an advocate of intelligent beings don't commit ritual suicide in D&D or any other game system for that matter, I've seen way too many game masters who, once the players are confronted, some bad guys will have the bad guys fight to the death, and that to me is retarded. I'm sorry, but it is. Even the most devout, short of a magically compelled or a true fanatical whatever, the lion's share of intelligent beings, this goes for humanoids and monsters too, are going to turn and run away when things are obviously not going in their favor, especially when death is imminent and they realize they're facing certain death in the face. They're either going to grovel, they're going to surrender, they're going to flee, or what have you. Too many times we turn this into a bloodbath that's not necessary. When we had that conversation over the years about the murder hobos, sometimes the murder hobos the player characters become murder hobos because the game master has failed to see the fine lines of how things ought to be, in my opinion. So in this case, the new character and or new player makes an effort to convince the group that it's in their best interest to take them along, and perhaps you can, as a clever GM, you can utilize this to your advantage. Number 3, mistaken identity. The PCs chase or encounter what they assume to be a minion or a foe in the adventure, only to discover they've made a mistake. Now they've got this particular individual who's either not happy about being, singled out and potentially attacked or harassed, but now is a long way from their home or support because you've chased them, or in a pickle because somehow or another you've drawn attention to them, and now the local whatevers want their 2 cents worth out of this person or whatever. But there's a third potential opportunity for introducing this new character. Number 4, and this is assuming, of course, the group's magic user and or cleric summons something which turns out to be the new arrival. So it's possible that during a attempted casting of magic or enacting of a clerical spell that we have a backfire or a misfire. We have them roll occasionally to see how successful they are at doing something, and we get those ones. But once in a while, as a GM, you can fudge that sort of thing. So instead of having the expected result, outsteps this replacement for the group. And perhaps the replacement is not overly keen on being shanghaied from wherever they were or whatever they were doing. This would be up to the player, of course, and how the player wants to handle it. Ideally, it's too easy, it's too much of a trope if everybody just, oh, this is a new guy, we just get along, he's a big old extended member of the family kind of thing. Or so-and-so's second, third cousin twice removed happens to just bumbling through the bush kind of thing. So, the summoning part kind of gives you the opportunity to throw another layer of intrigue and or a twist. Because what if the ultimate bad guy, the big boss or whatever, behind the scenes has manipulated the situation so to put this new adventure amongst your group. There's always potential for this. And then, of course, number 5. The new arrival is from a rival group who got lost and or left behind. Said group is also pursuing the, quote, MacGuffin. If you think about it for a minute, most adventures, and there's about a dozen or so basic standards of what we consider the motives and or missions of the concept of adventuring in a fantasy setting, and the go-tos that are commonly most used. And of course, we're saving the village, we're chasing after the treasure, we're righting some wrong, we're trying to find something that was taken. These are all tropes or basic concepts for the base cornerstone of a given campaign in a given world. Well, a lot of times we forget as a game master that there's potential rivals and or competition for the same thing. So if more than one group sets out to recover a stolen or lost artifact that's dear to the community, or to seek vengeance on some humanoids that raided the local a set of outlying farms and killed so-and-so's whatevers, why would there not be the potential for other groups trying to seek out and do the same thing as the player characters? Why should the player characters be unique in this aspect? In that case, it leaves you that opportunity for, well, not only additional encounters or subterfuge or occasional clashes with these rival hunters, if you will, or rival pursuers, but if somebody drops out of the game or a character gets killed, you can obviously tack in a new character from one of these rival groups. All you have to do is give a brief justification as how they became separated from the original group. Perhaps the original group gets wiped out and you come across the sole survivor of that rival group, or the rival group has a falling out, or you see the list. So there's my thought on that particular topic and subject. As always, I'm interested to hear your comments and opinions, as well as any rebuttals you'd like to post. Thank you for tuning in and listening.